whatever you're doing is supposed to bring you money. That's the idea. It's supposed to have some type of monetary value, and we're losing sight of like taking time to rest, taking time to pursue something that doesn't like you're not making any type of money from it. It just brings you joy, or it gives you a second to step away from the work. And it was through that I was able to discover this concept, and I'm like, I became curious about it. I became really curious about it, and how can I be intentional about kind of like making space for rest and in my creative practices and all of the things that I do.
Hello and welcome everyone back to the Care So Much podcast. We're so excited. Our guest today is Lynn Aurélie. She is a creator and a storyteller. She's a photographer and a writer, and I'm so excited to talk to her about creative wellness today. We've got a lot of creative wellness is a brand new concept to me. I had to ask her to send me kind of what that meant. I heard about it and now I'm so excited to. So without further ado, Lynn, welcome and tell us a little bit about kind of what brought you here.
Hi, Lillian. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for our chat today. A little bit about me. I am a photographer. As you, that was the perfect intro. I don't even know what to say.
No,
I'm a
okay.
photographer and storyteller based in Boston and New York. I take pictures for a living in every aspect of my life. I work in marketing by day, and I'm running my photography studio by night, creating content on like YouTube and Instagram, and just figuring that out. So I'm just in a period where I'm just having a lot of fun and just easing into it.
You specifically mentioned the idea of creative wellness. Could you explain, just for someone who, like me, it's their first time hearing about this, what is it that you mean when you say that?
I guess in a gist, creative wellness is this concept finding some type of work-life balance or harmony in the things that you do, and being able to create for yourself. If you're well, obviously from a creative perspective, creating for yourself, taking time to rest. What does self-care look like as a full-time creative? What does like talking about mental health and talking about rest and talking about taking a time off, and what do you share online and what do you share? So the concept is fairly new to me too, but like I'm very fascinated by it because I don't have work-life balance. Like I overwork. Sometimes I pull a little late nighters. And I'm a full-time creative in different aspects that are not just like within the influencer realm, but very much creative. I work in photography by day, as I said, and I'm running my photography business. So I'm always taking pictures, and I take pictures of my church on weekends, and I'm taking pictures of my family. Like I'm always creating, having boundaries around, okay, so when do I create? When do I get myself a time to just step away from the work and pursue something different? I'm even thinking about hobbies. I need some hobbies, okay? I need some hobbies. And so it's just things like that. That's kind of what encompasses creative wellness.
Yeah, I absolutely relate to that idea, particularly that idea of needing hobbies. I literally, a thing that I was talking to my mom about earlier this year, because we were chatting about how much more work life balance I've had since some of the changes I've made recently. And I now try to convince everyone that they should also do that. And
Yes.
one of the things I said is, I'm like, I haven't had hobbies since high school. When I was 16, I started doing some really rigorous academic things, and I stopped doing all of my hobbies. So like in the last
Wow.
year, I've started reading books again for fun because it's something I enjoyed. It's such an easy thing to forget, and we don't value that. Like as a society, we put value on the things that make money. Some people do have photography as a hobby. So how does being a creative and having that be your work and something you really love, like how does that affected your ability to find balance there?
It's so difficult. That's just the truth of what it is, and I'm very grateful for everything that I get to do. I mean, I started mid COVID, and I've been so successful, and my community's been very supportive of me. But it's just difficult. Like I remember, I've been taking photos since I want to say since I was 16. It was always a hobby for me and doing it for fun, right? So mid COVID, my one of my friends asked me to shoot her 30th birthday to celebrate, to have a photo shoot for her 30th birthday. And right after that, things just skyrocketed. I've been shooting ever since, and I haven't stopped. It hasn't been fun for me in a long time. I haven't been able to create a lot of personal work and things for me I had so much fun. Like in the earlier part of quarantine, I love still life photography and taking pictures of flowers and fruits and going on walks. And I literally haven't done that in a very long time. Literally paying me to take pictures of them and to deliver a product for them. So I don't have the balance. That's my answer.
How did you sort of come across this idea and why did it become important to you?
I discovered it through a sisterhood that I am a part of. It's called the Siri. And they do like writing workshops and kind of like it's like a community building and whatnot. And that's when they first mentioned it. And I was like, oh, that's what it's called. I'm interested in that. Because it's just, as you mentioned, becoming an adult and growing up, we're expected to always be on the go, and whatever you're doing is supposed to bring you money. That's the idea. It's supposed to have some type of monetary value, and we're losing sight of like taking time to rest, taking time to pursue something that doesn't like you're not making any type of money from it. It just brings you joy or gives you a second to step away from the work. And it was through that I was able to discover this concept, and I'm like, I became curious about it. I became really curious about it, and how can I be intentional about kind of like making space for rest and in my creative practices and all of the things that I do.
I love that. Intentionally creating
Yeah.
space for rest is something that I think a lot
Yes.
of us learned the hard way in the pandemic is something important to do.
It just stopped us in our tracks.
Mhm.
It stops, and you see even as things are reopening slowly, kind of, air quotes, we went right back into the groove of things. Like we didn't even take a time to digest everything that's happened. We're just like back into the grind of, like we're all like low-key burnt out and just like,
Yeah.
yep, keep it pushing.
We went through like this massive trauma event as a globe. And there's something interesting about that idea too, of because we all went through it. I know I personally, I'll just speak for myself rather than speaking for everyone. Like, I do such a good job of like invalidating my own feelings about it because everybody went through it. Where it's, well, my version of the pandemic wasn't even that bad because I got to keep my job and like didn't lose my home or anything like that. So like, I probably am like, making too big of a deal about it, as opposed to like acknowledging that just because it's worse for someone else doesn't mean that my experience was easy.
This is just like a global thing that we're all experiencing together, and we're just and no matter like how you were affected by it, this expectation that like, okay, work is back open, we're back outside, da, 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 things are moving again, everybody just get going. And it's like, can we please stop for a second? I think I need a therapist, I think I need a nap, I think I think I need a drink, I don't
I
know.
think I
Like,
need a therapist. I think I need a nap. I'm going to get that tattooed on my forehead. That's amazing.
yes. Honestly, it's we went right back into the grind of things, and it's just like, okay, what else are we, especially, I mean, everything that's still happening now. It's like, keep securing yourself, you never know what else can happen. It's very, very tough to even stop and to talk about rest, to talk about self-care right now. And even the mental health conversation, it's like, okay, we have other things to do, we're grinding, we're hustling, because we're just like going until the terminal, like, you just going until the wheels fall off.
One of the things that you mentioned is that idea, and I think it's particularly true for creatives or people who are maybe not in a traditional work setting, although I'm sure it's also true for people who are in traditional work settings, where the idea like you have to keep hustling, like you can't slow down, because how that plays into this idea of creating that intentional rest and like finding this space where you can be that calmer version of yourself and prioritize that, or how it makes that difficult.
That's something I'm trying to figure out as
Yeah.
well. Just journeying, like we're never gonna have it fully 100% figured out, right? We're just journeying through life. But I think it's even in the midst of planning for the future, because we don't know what's gonna happen next. Just trying to make sure that our families are secure, our finances are secure, whatever it is, our health is secure. Taking the time to slow down, whatever slow down
Mhm.
means, and it means something different for everyone. But and you hear a lot of people like talking even post COVID, being intentional about spending more time with their families, being intentional about maybe taking one day off of work, set goals, financial goals for yourself, or whatever that looks like. I mean, it looks different for everyone. And it's a very difficult time to be having this conversation, but I think it's just important. We've just been on the go. We've just been on the go for a very long time. And yeah, as I said, we slowed down. I mean, well, we came to a complete stop. First of
Mhm.
all. And so like now we just feel the need to just keep go, go, go. But we need some type of balance, because this is not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. I know it's not for me.
What are some of the things that make that like hard to actually do? Like, what are some of the things that, because I know you've mentioned a couple of times now that you're like, I'm not really great at that. Like, I think that's like such an important step on the journey, right? I know that I've had those moments of like, oh, I need to like calm down and relax. I had like a full-fledged breakdown a couple of years ago. And like coming back from having struggles like that, the moment between the realization that you need to do something different, that you're struggling with something, and the actual change in all of those pieces of your life that are like, there's a reason you're pushing yourself so hard. What are some of the barriers that you're experiencing and looking at when it comes to making those changes? Because the thing about creating intentional rest is you have to stop doing some things.
Finances and making sure that my family is secure, and work and wanting to show up in that as much as I can, and my side hustles and social media. So all of the things that I am juggling, and I'm like, yo, well, I can be go, like it's fine, I'll be all right. But it got to the point where I was having mental breakdowns. I was having a lot of panic attacks. I wasn't sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm super anxious, I'm super antsy, and I'm just tired. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the conversation that I'm like sparkling. I'm like, I'm tired. Like, I'm so tired. Like, I'm done running around. Like, I still want to be able to pursue all of the things and make sure that I'm doing great in the different things that I'm obviously pursuing. But it's just not sustainable. And I got to a point where I was very tired. I was very anxious. And I was like, okay, how can I do something different, right? How can I do something different? How can I try to slow down a little bit, especially with social media? It's like, do that thing a million times and keep going. And if you want to get up here, you have to be making 30 videos a day, and you have to be influences around us. Aside from myself, like, yeah, I have to do something different, especially when it started to take a toll on my health.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very hard for me because it's like, this is not the time to be slowing down. This is not the time to be taking it easy and try to take a deep breath. I have clients waiting on me. I have this deadline at work. I have this and that, it's just
Yeah.
the reality of it.
I also am an independent contractor marketer. That's my day job. Different, not quite as I know I hear a lot, and particularly my aunt, when I first started working independently, I called her because she'd been an independent writer for years and years and years. And one of the things she said, she goes, everybody thinks that as an independent consultant, you are your own boss. And she goes, I have 20 bosses. So
Mm,
like, how does that, you're obviously as this like, oh God, I'm going to use the like really annoying like girl boss term, but as like an entrepreneur who's like out there doing your own thing, like hustling on your own, like you obviously have a lot of internal motivation to do things. And then you also have these external deadlines and expectations. So, how does some of that affect all of these thousands of decisions you're making?
I think the misconception about entrepreneurship is that, like, oh my gosh, I don't have to work 9 to 5. No, you're going from 9 to 5, solid pay, benefits, vacation, or PTO, to 9 to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
No benefits. You might not make money the first 3 years that you're pursuing it. It's a lot of uncertainty. It really, you're just taking a shot in the dark, and you're hoping that whatever it is that you're pursuing will one day make you some type of money, or it will be able to support you in some type of way. That's the hard part that I'm still juggling.
You are this entrepreneur, you're trying to find these different ways to support yourself. And it's harder than people think.
Juggling all of those things, and working with clients, right? Working directly with clients, the communication there. I am a one person team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that, like, that would have been wonderful to oh, I can wait. I'm speaking into existence the day that I can hire a team. That I love that. I love delegating and like have somebody else do something that they're much better at than me. But at the moment I am alone, and so it's like the shoots and the invoices and the financial stuff and the marketing stuff and managing my studio, all of that is all on me. And I think, like, I do set higher expectations for myself, but I think I'm just learning where am I at right now and how much can I
Mm-hmm.
actually handle right now. And I'm actually right now in a period where I'm making decisions around that. Hey, like, I have a lot on my plate. So how can I have some systems? I need some better, like, automated systems in place to kind of help me out with that. Asking for help, maybe looking for an extra hand to help around with things. So yeah, it hasn't been easy, but
One of the things you mentioned specifically is the idea of saying no to things. Obviously, something that we're all, or not all of us, but at least the two people on this call, imperfect at.
I can only speak for myself. I wouldn't say I'm a people pleaser. I think I have a very servant personality. I love to help. I just love to help. I'm the type of person, I enter the room, how can I lend a hand? Please give me something to do. I love to help, and I love to, I guess acts of service is how I show love.
Mm,
To be able to like, how can I, like, how are you feeling overwhelmed right now? What can I relieve you of? And so when people come to me with things, I'm like, yes, I'm
yep.
not gonna check my schedule. I'm not gonna see if I'm busy or if I had something else going on. Yes, I will 100% do the thing that you're asking me to do the day that you're asking me to do it. When I already said yes to like five other people to do it on that same day, it's just very difficult for me. And I'm like, literally yesterday, I am now learning to be like, I'm sorry, I have a lot on my plate. And those are really difficult conversations. I don't know about you, but for me, it's very, very difficult. And a lot of people that I've been having those conversations with, their reactions are so funny because I'm like, okay, so I need to talk to you. And I'm like, yeah, I just, this thing that I've been able to help you with, I just want to help. But it's just, I'm in a season where like things are really busy. I'm very overwhelmed, and I just don't think I can help you in that capacity anymore. And it's fine to say that. It's okay to say no.
Hmm.
It's okay to say I have a lot on my plate, you know? And a lot of them were like, oh, I was waiting for you to say that. And I'm like, oh no, literally. They're like, I was waiting for you to say that because I know you have a lot going on. It sounds like it's scary, but people around you, whether it's in your ecosystem or your community or just your professional network, people who you're working with, they will see your work ethic. People who really understand you, how you work, especially if you're the type of person to always say yes and to always show up and give
Hmm.
it your best. When you say, yeah, no, I don't think I can show up for you in that sense, they will understand. They'll be like, whoa, I know you're going through something.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I related to everything that you said there. Like, I think it's so important for people who do want to be able to do everything for everyone all of the time, and then sort of realize that how much that is depleting themselves and making it so that they aren't able to even show up the way they want to for the things they've committed to. Like, how much for those people, when you start saying no, when you start expressing your needs, how quickly people show up for you in the way that you've been showing up for them, right? Like, they show up and they go, oh my gosh, of course, like, I can see how busy you are. I'm frankly surprised you're here at all. Like, you don't need to keep explaining this to me. Like, those are the ones you love, those are the ones that you keep in your life. I've also had experiences, and I'm curious if you've had an experience like this. I'm going to go into a very long side anecdote, but I think it's just so
Go
related to what you're
ahead.
saying. So back in 2020, when all the pandemic stuff hit, I had been pushing myself really hard at work. Prior to that, I work in marketing. They cut all the external marketing budget, but what they didn't do was cut any of the things we were expected to deliver. So it suddenly just became Lillian's going to do all the stuff that all the agencies have been doing. And I just kept doing it because we needed to come together. And I just completely believe like the idea of like, we're a team/family and you need to come in and help deliver all these things. So I did that until I couldn't. And it was really bad. Coming back from that, it was like waking up and like looking around and being like, oh, I see why that happened. Like, honestly, I can't believe I made it that long. But the expectations that, frankly, I set were still there, that I would deliver at this capacity that was doing a lot of harm to me. Months later, I've like done all this work. I've like had a lot of understanding from people until they stopped understanding. Then I went and I had this conversation with my boss and I went, hey, I'm working like 60 or 70 hours a week. It is less than what I was working before, but it's too much and I can't do it. It's hurting me. My mental health is not doing well. And I had a boss who I had a good relationship with, so I felt comfortable saying that to her. And she went, oh my gosh, Lillian, you shouldn't be working 70 hours a week. Like, that's way too much. Of course, your mental health is so important. Like, said all the right things. But then when I gave her the list of things I needed to cut, the response was, oh, but so those are actually important. And I do need you to do them. In fact, I need you to do more things. And I remember saying to her, so just to be clear, you want me to do more things in less time? And she said, yes, maybe you should take a time management class. So that to me is this other kind of person. So there's the people that you talk to and they're like completely understanding and like genuinely there for you. And then there's this other experience that I think is a little bit like the people who drank capitalism Kool-Aid, who respond with
Right.
this idea of, okay, I agree on paper with all of these things about finding intentional rest and being all of these things. But when it comes to giving up the things for me, that's a
Mm,
no. And what I found that was so surprising in myself, because I have these people pleasing things and I want to serve and I want to be able
mm,
to be there and support people. When she said that to me, I suddenly had this light bulb moment of, I need to care about me then, because you care about me as far as this, and I need to care
right,
about me past
right.
that. And that ultimately
Wow.
led to me leaving that job because that was the only way to do that.
Wow. 100%. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. And
Oh
I
my
think, especially because of the pandemic, it was like, oh, mental health. Let's talk about it. Mental health in the workspace, mental health day in the workspace. And
Mhm.
there's no accountability.
Yeah.
There's no intentionality. There's no actual action plan. Like, how are we making sure that we are prioritizing people's mental health and the workload that we are expected to deliver within a week, within days. Oh yes, of course your mental health is important,
Mhm.
but once it's like I can't do these things for you. It's like, wait, actually, wait, run it back for 1 second. There's no accountability behind it. It's just like a gloss. Let's just gloss over it and just let's call it Mental Health Day, but there's no action around it. I'm sorry that I had to deal with. I had to deal with that recently. This organization that I've been involved with, and it's been a pleasure to serve with them for a very long time. I'm having the no conversations. It's been
Mhm.
since April-ish. It's been difficult, but I'm
Yeah.
doing it. So they were like, "Oh yeah, I wanted to check in with you just to make sure that you're still able to help us with a couple of things." So we got on a call, and I'm like, "Yeah, no, da, da, da." So life is crazy right now. I would love to talk about maybe in the future. I'm not like cutting off that relationship. That's very
Yeah.
important for me, and we can be able to can come back on different terms and better boundaries, a better structure of like what am I actually helping with instead of the expectation that I should just be around to just help with anything all the time for the next couple of while. Give me a good 6 months or something, or 3 to 4 at least,
Mhm.
so I can be able to figure things out. And I just have a lot going on right now, juggling everything else, involved with other organizations as well. This is just like nonprofit work that I'm giving my time really. And so they were like, "Oh yeah, so like how are you managing your time? Do you think you're like good at that? Do you think like how do you think that's going for you?" I'm like, "I'm working and I'm doing photography and I edit from like 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. and like I'm just doing a lot of things."
Yeah.
And it was someone as you said, this was someone that I thought I had that relationship with, somebody that would understand, someone that I've had very candid conversations with about my mental health, about how tough things have been, and for you to say, "Oh yeah, but how are you managing your time?" Come on, like that was not fair at all. And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, actually. So now, obviously, I didn't say anything out of pocket to ruin that relationship. But I was like, you know what? Like, actually, yeah, please take me off the team for the time being, and I will let you know when I'm available in the future. Because I was like, yes, so I'm still not available to help. Maybe end of August, September. I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's just take my name off of the team, and in the future when I think that things are slowed down to a pace where I can give you my time again, kind of we can return to
Yeah.
this conversation.
Even super compassionate people, like I still have fond feelings.
Right.
It's so interesting how I have conversations with like friends and people who are like, "Oh, well then she's a garbage person." And I'm like, "No, she's also
Hmm.
she's living in the twilight zone or the I don't watch
Right.
Stranger Things, but like the upside down or whatever the thing
Right.
is." But like she's just like so in that attitude that she is also prioritizing
Right.
this work over her mental health, despite all that lip service that you mentioned that we get on
Right.
mental health days and like all these things. And the idea that then other people are entitled to know what your schedule looks like. So it's the people think they're entitled to your time and your schedule. It's one of those bizarre things where it's like, because I had all these struggles prior to being independent, I was able to look at my new work as there's so many like corporate nonsense buzzwords that I use as a way to like protect myself and my time, where I don't say I don't have time for that. I say I don't have capacity for that. I
Mhm.
say, I'm sorry, I've reached my capacity, like my work capacity. They don't need to know what my capacity is. I work really hard when I'm working, and so it burns me out. And if I do more than that, it's not going to be the same quality. So that's my capacity. I want time for creative endeavors like this. So that's my capacity. They want you to like lay out, here are the hours of my day. And because
Right.
they're pushing themselves to a point where it's hurting them, they also think they get to decide what that line is for you.
And it's not fair. It is not fair as an expectation. It's like, well, I'm juggling all of these things and I'm doing this and I'm in med school, or I'm here and I'm there and I'm volunteering at these three organizations and I'm showing up for my church. I'm showing up for this. I'm doing that, and I got kids and it's like, well, that's great for you. I can only handle so much. And I think that's a thing within my community. When I say community, I mean like within like church and friend groups and family and all of that, like
Mm-hmm.
that wider. It's kind of like grind, 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 sleep when you die. I'm not sleep when you die. I am sleep right now. I want to take a nap. I work. Let's say I'm working 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. the next day, I'm editing pictures. So if I say I want to have tomorrow off and I don't want to talk to anybody and I want my phone to be off, I am entitled to that.
There was a point where I was working like literally 90 hours a week. And people had
Wow.
so much praise for me in that. I used to talk about how much I worked all the time. I work 90 hours a week. You should probably be really impressed by me. And people were. And now I hear like friends being like, oh, I'm just so exhausted. I've worked like 12-hour days all week. And I was like, you should probably
Mm,
not stop doing that. Like that's, and
wow.
not in a, like, I mean that with the most compassion and the least judgment possible, right? Like I was in that. And so I
Right,
get
right,
that. That is a thing people brag about, is like
right.
how much they're not sleeping, how much they're not taking care of themselves.
It really is a thing right now. Yeah, no, I'm just like, I've been on the go for so long. And I even found myself, oh yeah, yes, I pulled an all-nighter. I pulled an all-nighter. All-nighters do not hit like they used to in college. I mean, I had really unhealthy habits in college, and I was just like studying all night. And I was just like, and so I would hang out with my friends all afternoon, and then I would do my homework at night, and I would stay up until the next day and just like take a quick shower and go to class. That's not sustainable, and my body is not where I was at college. And so when I try to pull an all nighter now, it takes me days to recover. For what? And I don't feel great.
Yeah, it's why, first of all, there's a lot of things I did when I was 20 years old that I do not recommend that anyone do. I wouldn't recommend 20-year-olds now do it. Like
At all.
why
At
is
all.
it that with that level of like, I was so broke, I was working all of the time, and I was taking like extra classes, because again, that idea of that hustle culture, that idea that like if you are going to be worth something, you should be working every second of every day, and
Right.
burning yourself out, and the exhaustion and mental health issues that cause, that is actually a victory like sticker that you get for being so tough and strong.
And then what?
Yeah.
And then what? In college, I had friends who we were supposed to be in the same year, and they rushed to graduate. They wanted to get the degree. They wanted to get 2 degrees in in 3 years, and they did it. And then COVID happened, and here you
Oof.
are. You're stuck at home with 2 degrees in your hands. Nobody is hiring. Rushing, rushing, rushing through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, how fast can you do it? How soon? Like, what kind of a milestone can you beat? How can you just like, because we're just rushing and we're running and we're running.
Well, and what didn't you do with that time? Like what, how many
Ugh,
parties did you not go to? How many
right.
friends did you lose touch with? How many times did you feel physically ill because you were prioritizing pushing yourself too hard?
Freshman year, I slept in the study room, and I'm like, thinking back, I'm like, freshman year, we're doing prerequisites. Like, it wasn't that deep for me to just like, I was just so intense. I went to into college like so intense, and I
Mhm.
never made time for fun. I never made time to rest. And then it just became a thing year after year, just like pushing, pushing, pushing. And so even when COVID happened, I'm like, I have to do something. I need to be, we're like stuck in this hamster wheel. I have to be doing something else. And so that's how I took up photography. And
Anybody who's listening to this, I want to be so clear. We are not judging you. If that is a
oh
space
no,
you are
no, not
in,
at all.
like there's no judgment. It is,
Mhm.
it's a moment of, if you can sit down and genuinely and sincerely go, I push myself really hard, but I look around and it brings me joy and it fills my life with all of the things that I want my life to be, great. But if you do what I did and what it sounds like, Lynn, you did, and you sit down and you look around and you go, oh, I filled my life with so much stuff. Even though I love all the individual pieces of this, it is hurting me. And I need to figure
Right.
out a way to stop it from hurting me. That's what
Right,
we're
right, right.
saying, is that that did
Yes.
damage to.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. 100%. No judgment. No judgment at all whatsoever. I think it's maybe like having a chart where you write down what do you spend your day doing, and if you see that you have balance and like some type of harmony in there, you can take a break to go take a walk. You can take a break to meet a friend for lunch. You can take a break to, I don't know, take an extra long shower or go out to
Mhm.
dinner or whatever it is. If you see that you have that balance, that's great. But if you feel that you're just like literally to the second, one thing to another, one thing to another, it's just worth just how can I have some more breathing room in my life?
Yeah.
Yes, but no judgment at all.
Yeah, I think one of the
Yeah.
biggest sort of paradigm shifts for me was the idea of stopping thinking about what do I want to do for a job and what do I want my career to be, because I think that's something that we talk about so much, but instead starting with what do I want my life to be and how do I fit my job around my life instead of trying to squeeze my life in between where I'm not working. That was a really big shift for me as to the moment of like, oh, the fact that that my life was not my priority is the
Mm.
problem.
Red flags everywhere. Work, living to work versus like working to live. It's like, okay, I want to work so that I later on can be able to enjoy my life, or I'm overworking right now so that I can take a nice summer vacation, or so I can
Mhm.
actually like take a break and go somewhere and do something. And it's yeah, I love that. That's a different conversation that is kind of sort of happening, not in the best ways because like people are going into debt to go on vacation, but we're talking about rest.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Right,
balancing out what it is that that is, because
right,
it could be big things like a vacation, or like one of the
right.
things you example. You can start with really small things like I'm going to
Yeah,
take the time to take a shower where I'm not worried about how long I've been in here. If you
right.
can't take a shower, not on a given day when you have a thing going on, but just like if you can't remember the last time you took a shower where you weren't worried about how long you were in there,
Right,
just something to think about. Just something to
right.
think about.
When's the last time you had breakfast? This
Yeah.
one's for me. This one's for me because I gotta go,
Yep.
And then it's like, oh wait, around lunchtime I have a quick call, and then the quick call turns into an hour. Okay, then I'll just have dinner. I
Yep.
haven't eaten all day. It's 7 p.m. and I'm like, oh, let me grab something to eat. Just the little things that we can do to kind of like put ourselves first as much as we
Mhm.
can.
And
Yeah.
just like there's the big stuff that we're talking about of like saying no to projects and like all those things. I think those are important. Those are hard. So starting
Yes.
with something little like I
Small.
am going to eat meals when I'm hungry. Like how reasonable, because you got to start with something that's so
Yes.
reasonable
Right.
that
Right.
like no voice in your head is going to stop you from that. Like
Right.
eat meals when you're hungry, sleep at night. Just that, like as somebody who
Yes.
also has like overdone it, I literally, when I started creating boundaries around my work, I started by going, I'm not going to work after 8 p.m.
Okay, so I literally just a couple weeks ago I was talking to my partner and he's like, "You cannot be working past 10 p.m." And I'm like, "But that's when my brain turns on." What do you mean? Like that's literally when I start actually working on creative stuff and I'm up late and he's like, "That's not sustainable. That's just not sustainable. It just doesn't
And
work."
if that's what's going to work for you, like that's the other thing too, is like it's not one size fits all. I'm a morning person. That you're talking about that idea of like that late
Wow.
nights when you do the creative stuff. I wake up at 5 a.m. I don't want to talk to people then. That's when I like I make a big breakfast. I sometimes will skip dinner, but I always make a breakfast and I'll like go sit with my dog in
Oh.
the yard and I'll do all those things. So, but like finding the thing that I've become more in tune with my own internal rhythms, and that's how I
Mhm.
like realized. And I actually would like to apologize for people that I am a morning person. I understand it's a character flaw. It's just who I am.
I am too.
But
I am
like,
too. I love it.
yeah,
You talk about a slow morning. I'm like, that's my dream. I want to start my morning at 4 a.m. I mean, the goal. We're talking like five, ten
yeah.
years from now, starting my morning at 4 or 5 a.m., watching the sunrise, going for a walk, just slowly starting my day. And I'm like, yeah, I'm available around 11.
But like
Like,
that's the thing, is like if
yeah.
we can create a space, and I think that as kind of independent creatives we have more flexibility to do that. I want to see this more in workspaces too. Like One of the really empowering things is how clients book meetings with me is I have a calendar and I get to decide what the work schedule is on that calendar. And so people
Mm,
can only book meetings with me from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. That's when people can book meetings with me.
wow. Okay.
And that's everybody has been able to make that work. And anytime I can make exceptions outside of that whenever I want to. But that's when people like, I am available for you to book meetings whenever you feel like it.
Mm,
So creating
yeah.
some of those boundaries for yourself. And then if you want to start editing at 10 p.m. because that's what you want to do, that's great. If that's really what your internal rhythms are, that's totally fine and great. But then find the other times that people think you quote
Mm,
unquote should be working that you're not going to work. Don't work before 11 if you start working at 10
right.
p.m.
So it's difficult for me because so I am, what is it, morning bird and a night owl at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't have the balance. I would love to start my day at 5 a.m., but also I can stay up very late working. Honestly, I start working late because I'm just lazy. That's just the truth of what it is. I'd be on TikTok for 4 hours. Okay, so during my day, instead of spending so much time on TikTok, how about we take that hour and we just at least start on some edits, or at least answer some emails, or at least send out some invoices, or whatever it be, just to kind of like move it around more.
I had a lot of trouble sleeping, and my therapist gave me some incredibly annoying but really effective sleep hygiene
I'm taking
rules.
notes.
So, one of the biggest ones, and this is the one that I don't do the most often and is the most important, is she specifically said no technology for an hour before bed. But it's really, for me, the most important one is no work for a long time before bed because my brain will go to it. And then I just sort of expect my brain and body to switch to being able to sleep.
Yes,
And how
that
is
should
that
be
going to work?
easy. Right.
Who's doing that one? So I like that's where I started creating like super intentional space. That's where that's actually what got me back into reading. And it doesn't have to be a book. It can be whatever like makes sense for
Right.
you and what works for you. But for me, it became books and it was part of the like, oh, I forgot I like this. I forgot
Yeah.
I forgot that it doesn't have to be like my friend and I actually have talked about this a lot. Like somehow we put books in this category of like self-improvement. So
Oh, yes.
if I was going to read a book it had to be like a biography I heard was really good or like
Right.
a book on burnout, which I do have this incredible book on burnout that I highly recommend for
Yeah.
people.
Like in 2020, I read the most I ever did. Like I read so much, and I love books. I'm a reader. I am not reading self-help book. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I am a fiction girl. I am a murder mystery. I love a good
Totally.
romance. I love a good drama. I love young adult fiction. I'm gonna put my phone in a different room, as I've heard,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna start reading
What I
it.
learned about myself was it was too stressful to put my phone in the other room. So what I did is I put my charger far enough that I couldn't reach it without getting out of my bed. So I stopped
Okay.
reaching for it subconsciously. And I the funny thing was like I'd be reading a book and I'd like mindlessly reach out for my phone and I was like, "Who
How did
what?"
you get here? Well, since we're here, like literally sometimes I open and close the Instagram or TikTok app like 50 times. I'll be like,
Mhm.
okay, nope, get off. And I'm like, okay, let me look at my calendar. How did I get back on TikTok?
2 hours later, I'm on TikTok
And then
again. When did
I'm
this
still
happen?
on TikTok. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Um
Right. I mean that's what these apps in our phones, or that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, we're addicted to it. I'm supposed to be watching Social Dilemma. I still haven't watched it, but
but
maybe hopefully
that's
that's gonna spook me out a little bit.
supposed to is like such like what you should be doing and what you're supposed to be doing and all of these things like that is such a trap. The idea that
Right.
like there's a list of things that you should be doing. That's so the book that I specifically was talking about was the idea of burnout. It's called The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. It's genuinely a super good book. I'll put it in the description for everyone. I was reading those books. It felt like homework. Like they
Mm,
were good and valuable and they did like there's
right.
a lot of books that I read that are sort of life-changing, but books don't have to be life-changing. They can
They
be
don't.
go read a YA book that sounded really good. Go read like if you
Yes.
go reread the books that you loved when you were 15 if you want to. Like I've been reading a
100%.
lot of romance books. Turns out they're fun. Like who
They're dope.
cares?
They're really a really good time. I love
Right?
thrillers. I love murder mystery. Like, who did it? I need to read the next chapter. Like, I'm really redefining that for myself right now. And audiobooks. And I'm the type of person when I read, I always have sticky notes with me everywhere. I have highlighters. And so if I'm like listening to a productivity book or a business book, I need to take notes. I can't just listen
Yeah.
to the thing and then bookmark it and then I have to come back and reread it again. And that like I feel like I'm in class.
Well, and that's like fine and great, right? Like, but I think of those as like separate things because it was bizarre how I was totally okay with watching like garbage TV because that's a thing that we're used to doing, but reading
Right.
like honestly like similar quality books of like
Right.
it doesn't have to be something that you're like growing with. It's
Oh, that's a great point that you made. That's a really great point.
It was one of those incremental little things for me that was like, "Oh, I can just do something because it brings me joy." Like, that could be the only things don't have to have additional value. It can just be because I wanted to do that thing.
And
What was
and then that's basically what hobbies are too.
right?
And like and redefining that for ourselves. Like I just wanted to do it. It helps me to take my mind off of this thing. I'm always thinking about photography. I'm looking for a hobby that doesn't use
Mhm.
that side of my brain. It's so funny. Like I literally right before we got on the call, I called the YWCA because I'm trying to sign up for swimming lessons and I want to sign up for like a pottery class. I want to sit like on the
Fun.
wheel and like create
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, I need hobbies. I need to get out of my house. I don't want to be in my studio anymore. I need to be outside doing something else.
Finding things like
Yeah.
that to do something else. And classes are such a great way to like get into something like that.
Yes.
So different and so much
Yes. Yes. Yes.
fun. Okay, well, we could trade hobbies back and forth forever, and we
Yes,
will.
of course. Yes. And those are the ways to kind of like practice creative wellness. The small things. It doesn't take much. I know we kind of like scattered them throughout the conversation, but kind of scheduling that rest into your schedule, making that space for it, finding a hobby, reading a book, spending less time on your phone and on TikTok. These are the small changes, right? Again, no
Mhm.
judgment to anyone. I'm still figuring it out. I am 100%. I don't have the perfect morning routine, but
That hustle culture, which I think we've talked about, is like everywhere. Like I think of it often as a very like American thing, but I think it is sort of a global thing. Like there's lots of places that that happens. And something that I'm curious about, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is as somebody who is from both an immigrant family and the Black community, I'm wondering if you think that that compounds some of those ideas that you have to be working hard all of the time to sort of earn your place.
definitely 100%. Ooh. 100%. And so I'm from Haiti, and my family and I came here in 2010. We've only been here for a couple of years, and so coming here, you're just starting over. That's
Mhm.
just what it is. No matter where you're coming from, you're just starting over, and that's kind of like the journey that we've been on. Just kind of like, okay, we just have to keep pushing to be able to have certain things in place, whether it's like that financial security or to have just to make sure that we're secure as a family, just to do these things. And it's my mother and I and my two little sisters. And so it's kind of like, how can I support her the best that I can, while pursuing my own things and while like kind of like pursuing my own dreams and my own plans for myself. But yeah, that's just what it is. A lot of setbacks and just a lot of limitations in life in general. And sometimes you do have to kind of like put in a little bit of extra effort to get to where you need to.
That's one of those things that, like, obviously, as a white woman, I'm not gonna understand. Like, I can try to, but like,
Mm.
I'm just never gonna have the like same connection to that because the other things that you're mentioning, I'm like one to one, 100% understand. And I can imagine the additional layers of that on top of that. Do you find that that is like kind of simultaneously a practical thing that you have to deal with and sort of a psychological emotional thing? Like, how do you feel those interplay?
Yeah. Oh, that's really, 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 really good. 100%. It just takes a toll on you.
Hmm.
It just really does take a toll on you. And even like watching my mother when we were in Haiti, my mom was a boss babe. Okay, my mom was she worked. Both of my parents worked in politics. Um, and my mom was like she worked for like an independent political party, and she like planned campaigns. She was like literally like an event planner. She planned campaigns. She planned like everything for the campaign trail and conferences and crusades, all of that stuff. She planned events at the White House, and she was like doing all of the things. And you come here and you're starting over because you have kids to
Mm,
feed. That's just what it is. You have bills and you have family back home to support and to be able to that are depending on you for school
mhm.
fees, for health, whatever. And so she came here and she started over. She's not just gonna come here and like, oh yeah, so I worked at the National Palace in Haiti. Is it okay if I just give me something to do at the White House? It just doesn't work like that, you
Mhm.
know? And so that psychological toll, I bet it has taken a toll on her. And even me just watching her and knowing her work ethic and knowing what she's passionate about and the things that she has pursued and even the dreams that she still has for herself, it just takes a toll on you. It does. But we keep pushing, we keep hopeful, and we remain hopeful. Yeah, it's been great. Just the opportunity to work and to pursue higher education and to be building here. It's been a journey.
Relates to that I'm curious about, both with kind of conversations with your mother and anyone else sort of who's had similar experiences. Do you find that those conversations are really different and or difficult when you're talking about these kind of self-care things and this idea of creating intentional rest and all of those things? Do you find that harder to do when you're talking to someone like your mother or other people who've sort of been through similar situations?
100%. My mom does not know how to rest. She doesn't. She's just
Mhm.
like, her hamster wheel is going like 1,000 miles an hour. And we are having those kind of harder conversations to the point where it has taken a toll on her physical health, on her mental health. And so that's why she's like, okay, well, I think you're right sometimes. She's still a little bit stubborn. You know, it's like at the age where you're like, you're parenting your parents.
Mhm.
I'm having those hard conversations with her. I'm like, hey girl, take care of yourself and let's get our nails done. Let's go for a walk. Let's do this. Let's do that. And so it's really tough for her. And obviously, I'm privileged in the sense that like my mother, what is it, my mother walks so I could run or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
My mother has sacrificed so much so that I can be like, oh yeah, I have a photography business and hashtag self-care. But like my mom works a million hours a week, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely
Mhm.
still understanding of that. But it's something that we're learning together. We're like besties and we're like learning how to
Yeah.
rest, so we're both learning how to slow down a little bit.
One of the things that I've sort of heard from other people and in other situations is this idea that kind of as an immigrant, somebody who's come here and like gotten these opportunities, there's an expectation that instead of taking that and being able to find space to rest, that there's an expectation of gratitude, that like you're supposed to be really thankful for all these things. I don't know, like as a white woman, all of the things that I've been given and all the privileges that I've had are like the norm. Ugh. And
Hmm.
like what I'm
Right,
supposed to
right,
have, where like there's an
right.
expectation that as an immigrant from Haiti, you're supposed to be so grateful for the opportunities you've been given in America.
Definitely 100%. Oh my gosh, speaking of that, I remember when I was in college, I was invited to speak at this fundraising things for like all the like rich folk who like give funding to the school. And they were like, yeah, can you please like in your speech, can you talk about how like, like the school helped you come here from Haiti and like we have like I'm like, please, come on. Like I got here by my own merit. Yeah, it was just like it was super shady and sketchy. And I'm like, I'm not doing that because y'all did not send a plane to Haiti to pick my family up to bring us here. That is not a thing. And so yeah, there's this expectation for us to be so grateful that somebody is reaching out a hand. And hey, the gratitude is there. Like I'm grateful.
Hmm.
My family is alive. I can't complain. I'm able to pursue higher education. We're working towards something, but we pay taxes like anybody else and we're
Hmm.
working hard and we're contributing to the economy like anybody else. Like wherever we find ourselves, I speak for myself and my family, we try to contribute as much as we can.
Hmm.
And yes, the gratitude is there, but it's not owed to us. We're all working hard. We're all working towards something. We're all pursuing the American dream, whatever that even is anymore, you
Hmm.
know?
Well, I think so many of the things that you've said are so incredible. The idea of this creative wellness, and we've talked about this a little bit, but I always like to end with kind of how people who are listening to this and they're like, oh my God, I also have an addiction to my work, or like I'm feeling burnt out, or like I did some of these things you suggested of looking at my schedule, and I think need to start putting in some of these intentional changes. For people who want to get into creative wellness, what are some of the ways that you would suggest somebody get started with that?
One thing that worked for me is I saw this somewhere. It's kind of like creating a pie chart of what does your day look like. So from
Mm,
from 6 a.m. to this, I wake up, is my morning routine. From this to this, I eat breakfast. From this to this, I shower. Like literally, like having a pie chart of your entire day. What is it right now? And um, and what would you like it to be ideally? And kind of like marking out rest or the time that you get to rest in between there. So it's like
Mhm.
when you wake up, do you wake up and you grab your, like, what, literally be realistic with yourself? I wake up, first
Uh-huh.
thing I do is I grab my phone, I check my email. Yes, that's the first thing I do. And so being like, okay, so I spend my time on my phone. When I'm showering, I'm not on my phone though. Okay.
Mhm.
When I'm eating, I'm on my phone. When I'm working technology all day, and then in the afternoon, maybe at dinner, I'm on my phone, and all of these things. And then saying, and then having an idea of like, what would you like your ideal day to look like? And it's obviously not beyond realistic. Like I would love to work for like 2 hours a day and then spend the rest of the day chilling. But it's
Mhm.
like, okay, well, because I would work, and then maybe after work, if I could just have like a 2 hour break where I can eat lunch, or like during work, or 2 hour break after work where I could eat something, or I can
Mhm.
just breathe a little bit, maybe go for a quick walk, and then I can pick up on the rest of the creative stuff that I do, and give myself a specific time limit so that I can actually have a nighttime routine where I'm not on
Mhm.
my phone. Maybe I can read before bed, take that long
Mhm.
shower, catch up with my family. That's what I think has worked for me, and I'm still working on it. But having an idea of what my day would look like ideally is predominantly off my phone as much as I can. I spend my whole entire day in front of a computer, in front of my phone. So as much as
Mhm.
time as I can spend away from it, checking in with my family, being present with my siblings, with my family. That's what I'm learning. And then hobbies.
Yeah.
Find something fun to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking into.
Something that's so wonderful that people are going to get to hear from you is, what does this process look like when it's important, you're working towards it, you're balancing all of these different things that we've talked about, the idea of like you're this entrepreneur, you're like out here building your own thing, and how do you balance that with the life that you want and being able to have the hobbies and the joy and the people in your life that you want, and how do you find that priority? And I think that's such a great first step, that idea of like, where are you now, where do you want to be, what are the small changes you can make to get there?
Yes. And be kind to yourself, be gentle with yourself. Take it easy. You're just not going to have it figured out.
Mhm.
You're just not going to, but just like set small attainable goals, small tiny changes, cuz when you shift too quickly, like you freak out, and like it's not sustainable. You can't really keep up with it. That's why, like for example, New Year's resolutions don't work for me, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do da, 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 da. And then like 5 days into the new year, you're like, anyways. But when you talk about like small habit changes, tomorrow I'm gonna wake up a little bit earlier, or tomorrow I'm gonna actually make breakfast before I leave the house.
Mhm.
I'm gonna, like, just the small ways that you can kind of like make more room in your schedule, and just be patient with yourself and take it easy.
Yeah, and I think even
Yeah.
celebrating those incremental changes, right? I love what you said about
Yes.
New Year's resolutions don't work for me. The idea of like the number of times I've done a big declaration of, and now my life is going to be completely different.
Of
That
course.
doesn't
Vision board
work.
and all. Vision
Where
board and all.
where like there are absolutely moments in my life that I can point at and be like, this is when this changed for sure. But that's very rarely me sitting down and be like, I'm going to be a breakfast person now. No,
Yes.
I started doing that by going, today, I'm going to make breakfast, because it can be tomorrow because you got to set your alarm and stuff.
Yes.
But if that alarm
Yes.
goes off and you end up watching TikTok for an hour instead of making breakfast,
Right.
celebrate the fact that you woke up at all, right? Like, that's an incremental change.
Yes. You woke up 20 minutes earlier
Look
today?
at you. Oh my
Yes.
God.
We're going out to dinner. We're getting ice cream or something.
Right? Like, so then the
Yeah.
next time when you wake up and you actually do make breakfast, make sure that the feeling that you have is kindness and gratitude and compassion for yourself
Yes.
and joy in the fact that you did it, instead of what is so easy to slip into, which is, well, this was super easy. Why don't I do this every day? Because if you spend eating that breakfast, beating yourself up for the fact that you don't do this every day, guess who's not going to wake up and make breakfast tomorrow?
Right. Great point. Positive self talk.
Hmm.
It can be easy to be like, dang, girl, you never. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
You never keep your word, or it really, we are sometimes um our
Yeah.
toughest like self parenting, or toughest mentors, or toughest enemy, whatever the word is. But it's like, because then if you were like, I wanted to wake up a little bit earlier so I can make breakfast, or
Yeah.
start my day off right, and then you don't do it, like, dang, I never did it, I never keep my word, and that, it just takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
But just being able to be like, you know what, okay, fine, tomorrow let's try again, it's okay, let's still try to have a nice day. It really, sometimes it's like really babying
Hmm.
yourself
Hmm.
to slowly get through and do what you need
It
to do.
reminds me so much of a conversation I actually had just a few weeks ago with that's also on the podcast. So you guys can go back. It's the first episode. You guys can go back and listen to it.
Yes, awesome, check
It's
it out.
it's called Mariah. It's the episode with Mariah where she's talking about learning to climb, and she talks about it is called applied behavioral analysis, and it's about those incremental
Mm.
changes. So if some of these like little incremental changes is really resonating with you, I highly recommend going and listening to that episode. There's a lot related to that in there and kind of what we're talking about. And I think these two ideas pair really well together. The idea of caring for yourself with those small incremental changes is really incredible. Well,
Awesome.
I'm sure lots of people are listening to this and going, Lynn, I want to watch all your stuff and I want to pay attention to everything you've ever done. And also, I know you're busy for the next forever, but eventually I want to be able to hire you. So, where are all the places people can kind of see you on social media and engage with you when you kind of created these lovely boundaries for yourself? And
Mhm.
when eventually you're available for new business, how can people hire you?
Yes, of course. So I am everywhere on socials: Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, as Lynn Aurélie. And my email is in my Instagram bio. It's so funny because on my Instagram bio, I put living my life on offline, please email. And people are like literally emailing me, hey girl, I'm just checking in on you because I know you're not on Instagram. I'm like, thank you for, like, people were having a really hard time respecting that boundary. But someone messaged me on Instagram. They're like, hi, so this is the thing, I texted you, but also I emailed you because I feel like you would get to that quicker. I'm like, yes, yes, I would,
Nice.
because I'm building very strict
Yeah.
boundaries around socials right now. It's really tough. But yes, my professional email is on my Instagram, it's on my LinkedIn, it's on my website, leanaurelie.com, everywhere. And then, if you're looking for a laugh, least less professional, more chill, find my TikTok, middle name Aurelie. Yeah, that's me everywhere.
And all of these will be in the episode description and on across all of Care So Much socials. So you can find those there as well.
Yes.
Lynn, thank you so much for being here. I love the way that you say your name as opposed to the very Midwest way that I say it. And I'm sorry about that.
No, that was perfect. But it rolled right off the tongue, though.
Thank
It
you.
really
Thanks. I
did.
did try really hard.
Yes, you did. And it sounded good. Most people will butcher it. Like, they'll just say something completely different. Like, how did we
That's
get there? But that
hilarious.
was good.
Oh, human beings. What a thing to do. Um, but thank you, genuinely, thank you so, so much for being here. This was such a fun conversation, and I'm sure all of the listeners agree. It's such a wonderful way to kind of share this amazing journey that you've been on and hopefully makes all of these things a little bit more accessible to people, which is lovely and one of the big reasons why I do this podcast in the first place. So if people listening are looking for more of Care So Much, it's at Care So Much Pod on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Twitter because I'm everywhere. And you can also
Awesome.
email at caresomuchpod@gmail.com. Thank you all so much for listening. And if you have a minute and you enjoyed this podcast and you want to maybe give us a little review, those matter quite a bit on Apple Podcasts. It matters a lot to give us however many stars you feel I've earned. And a few sentences really makes a difference for people being able to find us. Maybe even share with a friend if you found this episode particularly inspiring. For those of you out there who are thinking to yourself, I have something that I'm really passionate about and I care a lot about, and I could talk about for hours and hours and hours, but nobody else cares because it doesn't matter and I need to just be quieter about it. Just know that I care. I care so much.